Okay guys, let's talk about sword and shield versus glaive. We'll go through the three principles, the initiative, line and plane. We'll start with the shieldman first and then move on to the glaive. So first things first, initiative. Don't give it away. Yes, the glaive has the intimidation factor. A lot of people don't know how to fight pole weapons or two-handed swords or anything like that, anything other than a sword and shield, and they get afraid or get scared or don't know quite what to do. This gives the opponent the initiative. So don't do it. Suck it up. You have a chance of winning any fight. Don't worry about what the other person is using. We'll teach you skills to deal with that. But don't hand them the initiative when you don't have to. It's just an extra advantage that they don't need to have. So, where to begin? I guess it's in your, keep going with initiative. How do you take initiative? So we decided not to give it away, but we still need to take the initiative. Now, some people, if they're not quite sure what to do, they may think that you're outranged, so the best thing is to get in close as fast as possible. This is good in theory, but doesn't often work very well against a competent glazeman because it's very hard to hold your shield in a consistent and stable manner when you're charging in. You'll quite often move around and openings will happen. More than that, if you charge the opponent, it's more often they'll run away, which leads to you having to move further. If you have a nice, slow, controlled approach, they're less likely to move as far, so you don't get as tired trying to chase them around as much. So how do you get the initiative out of it? Well, my approach is to have a nice controlled attack, not running, never staying still, constantly moving towards the opponent, always putting pressure onto them. This doesn't let the glazeman stop, take his ease and have a thrust or poke or chop or whatever he wants to do. He never gets the spare time just to sit and relax and control the fight. I'm always moving, I'm always trying to engage. I'm never wanting to stay at his extended range. I'm trying to move into mine, but do it in a controlled fashion. That way you're not opening up yourself to an easy sucker shot. So with the movement, the key is to also not present the opening. Now, a glazeman will probably have a better line game than you. Generally, polesmen need that, otherwise they don't do very good and they'll give up. So what that means is they will be trying to work around to your sides or do feints. So what you need to do is, by having the controlled, slow approach, don't fall for the feints. So you need to not overreact to the movement, so they fake down, don't wrench down like that. And that comes, you get better at that as you become more confident in your stance, which we'll go through. And then the other bit with the line, once again, that's all about your stance and how you approach them. So rather than approaching straight on like this, okay, in which case you can see part of my body here, and a small step by the glazeman to the side will open this up. So if they step to the side, they're now seeing this, and there's not much I can do to defend against the thrust there. So what I do, instead of presenting square on, I will aim for their left shoulder or slightly off from it, so maybe 2 foot off from them. So instead of forming up square, I'm now like this. So the glazeman has to come even further around to get my exposed side. Okay, so by doing that, I'm just doing a controlled corkscrew, okay, in towards the opponent. This lets me control the fight because I know I've done my best with line. So this is me controlling the line. Okay, and then the other thing is the sword and shield placement. You'll notice I'm doing something like this. What this is doing is basically covering everything except for my head. Okay, they're going to take a thrust at a quick shot at me to try and kill me as quickly and easily as possible. What you want to do is know where that shot's coming and block it. Okay, so to do that, I leave something open. Now there's different philosophies on what you should do. The one I have the most luck with is leaving the head open, so the shield is down low, it's covering the leg, they can't get a leg shot, and sword out. Okay, so if I step back for a minute, you can just see exactly how much of my body and head is open. like this, right? So you can see it's just the head. The back leg is open, but it's so far back that they can't reasonably get at it without getting hit themselves. So part of that, and I'll turn side on now, you can see I'm holding the sword out forward. This is part of my line game, okay? There's a difference between forming up like this, okay, and that. With the sword out here, their glaive has to travel in a straight line if it's going to thrust at me, okay? And to do that, it's got to get past the sword. So I can use my sword as a small glaive to deflect any shots, okay? So this gives me control. Now, instead of controlling from here, I'm now controlling an extra metre and a half out in front of me, okay? So from the side, instead of doing something like this, where your sword's behind your shield, it's now out like this, okay? From the other way, instead of like this, now out here, okay? So, this is how you're going to hold your sword and shield. You're not going to face dead on, you're going to face to the side, and you're going to do a slow corkscrew in towards your opponent. Ideally, if you're in a tournament field, you'll corkscrew them into the corner so they don't have anywhere to go. Now, as you're doing this, they'll be trying to throw a shot at you. You know that he's only got a headshot at you, okay? And because your sword's out here, you're controlling it. You don't care about down low, you know he can't get anything. Put your sword down a little bit, try and get that thrust coming in over the top of the sword. And as soon as that thrust comes, all you have to do is move your sword slightly and it's going to miss your head, okay? You've got very, very good control over it, all right? So as it comes in, you can lift this up and then take it to your shield, and then your sword arm's free, okay? Now, the better the glazesman, the quicker they'll realise what you're doing, and they won't let you get too close with that. But you'll see it in their eyes. They'll realise what you're doing, and you're trapping them in the corner, and they'll try and make a run for it. At that point, if you think you're close enough, you can do a 3-step charge. I never run more than 3 steps. Any more than that, and you generally overcommit, and they may end up behind you or beside you or some random position, and it never ends well. So I only ever run 3 steps, and then if I haven't got them by then, I stop and reset and go again, okay? But I find this slow, methodical walk in like this, and then at one point they'll have to throw a shot at you, whether it's a thrust or a chop. You either grab it with your sword, put it onto your shield, or just grab it straight with your shield, and then you're in, and then you're throwing your shots on them. So once you're in, most people would be taught this: you throw your snaps, your slots, or your wraps. Simple snaps and backhands are very easily blocked. They just have to move the glaive like this. So you want to do any shot that's parallel with their weapon. So that's the basics of it. So initiative, we're taking control of the fight by doing a slow, methodical walk. We're never letting them dictate the fight. We're just constantly moving, stuffing up their range and blocking their shots. Okay. The line game, we've gone from online to slightly offline because we want to lock down their line game. Their best line game is to come around into the open side, so we've addressed that with this, okay? And we slow corkscrew. The plane, we're predominantly dealing with a thrusting game here, so the plane is equal to the line, so we don't have to worry about that so much. When you're getting closer, there will be some chops, but we'll cover that a bit more later on when we're dealing with the chopping game in later videos. So with those skills, your shieldmen should be able to survive longer than what you were otherwise, and gives you more opportunities. Okay, so there's no rush to get in there, right? You have the shorter weapon, you have more control. A shorter weapon should always win if all things are equal, okay? Same skill level, different weapon forms, the shorter weapon should win, because while they can outrange you, if you have good defense, you have more control. The shorter weapon has less leverage on it, okay? If they're thrusting at 8-foot range, they've got very little control on what the tip does, right? They just send it in and hope for the best. All you need to do is be confident in your ability to deflect it at the last minute or take it as a block or whatever, but know that you can do that and just keep your slow pace going forward, okay? That's the best course for you. You're controlling the fight by doing that. Now, what changes if you don't have a heater shield? What happens if you've got a round centre grip shield? Nothing. It's the exact same technique. So your shield won't cover as much as what the other shield did, okay? Depending on the size of it, of course. But you take the same stance, all right? Most of the work is being done by the sword, okay? It's playing a line game, a fencing game type thing against the glaive, okay? It creates a shadow effect. You still have that same effect. Your shield may not cover as much of your leg. That may have a slight chance. It's very hard to stick a thrust down onto the leg armour though. It's a very low chance shot, and most people normally don't go for it. So it's not a high probability. They might be able to get a chop in there, but once again, to get the chop into there, they have to get very close to do it, okay? Because you've got this forward stance with the glaive, with the sword out the front. And if they do it, a little crouch or a step in to the chop will cover that, okay? So I'm not too worried about that. Or you can just go down even lower, sucker in the head. So maybe not just there. It's not just the head they can see; it's the upper chest. Either way, it's the same principle. In, off to the side, slow, methodical walk like that. I suppose the only thing, really good glazesmen, if you're coming up against them, they may look for the step, but when your leg comes out from behind the shield, either thrust or chop for that. So to control that, you just need to do small controlled movements, okay? There's no need to take big lunging steps. You're controlling the fight, you're doing it nice and slowly and methodically. So, hope that helps. I'll stop the video there in case we go too long for the YouTube limit, and I'll pick up the glaive and we'll go on with that.